If a tree falls in the forest and everybody's asleep, does anybody hear it? Well, I didn't, but I know several neighbors that did hear it when this tree fell on this motorhome recently, not only damaging the motorhome itself, but also the motorhome next to it. Luckily, there was a great company that came out very quickly to help these neighbors out. This was actually a one-person show. They were very busy this day, and he started out on the second motorhome, which basically had the branches laying, scratching, and in one case, I believe, digging into the roof of the motorhome. As I shared, this guy was pretty amazing. He was using ropes, cardboard to make sure that he protected areas of the motorhome's roof, and this long-handled saw, which he just continued to cut off all these little branches until he got it to the place where he could cut off a larger piece. And then it was just amazing to watch how he manipulated those large, heavy branches in order to cut them so that they wouldn't damage the RV itself. Now, I'm going to admit, there were a few times when he was cutting some of this, like this branch right here, I was just sure it was going to fall on the top of that motorhome and even make a bigger dent in it. But watch how he manipulated this, and it just falls right into the crook of that branch. And then later he was able to just kind of push it off before it really damaged the slide. You can always tell when people are experienced, because while it took a minute and he was certainly being careful, he was very quick about getting all of this off that roof just as quickly as he could, safely. I really appreciated his process here because he got to the point where those big pieces were kind of in the way, yet he could not feel comfortable, he said, cutting those down and expecting these branches that were on there to be the cushion. And so what he wanted to do was to get those off, and then you'll see where he put some plywood and some cardboard up there to kind of protect the roof of the RV. Now, by using the tractor and some rope, he takes this big old tree. You can see with the wind is just whipping in the back still. But he takes this big old tree and he pulls it away from the RV so that he can have a better angle at cutting it. When the tree fell, it actually lodged in between the window, busting the window of the first motorhome, and between their windshield and their mirror, the outside mirror. It also jammed the door in such a way that the occupants could not get out. Several of the neighbors offered to help them get out through the back, through the escape windows, which is why they're there, but they chose to wait until they were excavated out. There are two things working against us, not just in this park, but in the state of Colorado. One of them is a type of fungus that the trees have, and the other is that we have a very sandy soil that many of these trees have grown on. One note of interest for you here is that it wasn't the park that paid for the repairs on these RVs. It was the RV owner's insurance that paid for the repairs. All that to say, it'd be really wise for you to understand what your obligations are when you are in a park and a tree falls on you, because it could happen. Now, the park was really good about being proactive, and here you'll see, this is right outside our backyard, a tree that could fall on the back of our RV, and they actually took out about 4 trees just this past week to ensure the safety of our RVs. So what can you do to protect your RV, whether you are parked in your own home space, whether you're parked at a park, or even boondocking? Well, according to good old Google, here are a few things that I thought was wise to share. One is inspect the trees around you. Look and see if they are diseased, if they are decayed in some ways and have dead branches that could fall off very easily because they have a weakened structure. And you want to prune those off to your best ability. If you don't own the piece of property you're on, you certainly want to get permission first, or bring it to somebody's attention if that's their responsibility. And that just protects everybody. And have the roots checked, whether that's you pushing to see if they're loose in any way, or whether you have somebody come out and look at the base and structure and roots of the tree itself to see if it's loose, like our place. If it's in a sandy area and it's swaying pretty good when those winds come, it might be a wise idea to have somebody check it out. Kind of eyeball and see if a tree is close enough to fall on your RV home. And if it does, where would it hit? If there are branches hanging over your roof or your slides in particular, these are very vulnerable. You want to pay particular attention to loose branches that could hit that. If you see a lot of birds pecking on a tree, it could be because it's infested with some kind of insect, and therefore one that could be damaging the tree as well. And of course, like our first situation, you want to watch out when you have severe winds. If you live in a place that is windy or does have severe winds at times, you want to pay particularly attention to any kind of swaying or loose tree. If you have lightning, where we live, we are only second to Florida in the amount of lightning that happens in our area. So it's very possible that lightning could happen and strike a tree in our area. And then, of course, snow and ice. Now, our snow is usually pretty light, except in the spring. It can be very heavy. And when we lived in the Pacific Northwest, we had really heavy ice snow storms. And this caused a lot of tree damage. And then, of course, finally, you want to have any kind of emergency numbers close to you during those seasons when trees could be falling, whether that's for power lines, whether that's for emergency vehicles, that for emergency health vehicles that you might need if somebody gets hurt, your insurance company, and anyone else that you would need to notify should you have a tree that falls on your home. And finally, preparations as to where would you go if you had to leave your home. Know what your insurance pays for, what it doesn't, and make preliminary plans so that you have a place to start when your emotions are engaged so highly during stressful times like these. Hey, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. And would you do me a big favor? If you like this video, would you like and subscribe? And be sure to use the links below. We want to bring you a lot more content, and that is what will make it happen.